Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Shri Prabhupada. Welcome to morning's morning class. Today will be today's class will be given by His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu from ISKCON Atlanta, and he'll be speaking on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, Chapter 2, Text 118 and 121. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. All glory to Shri Prabhupada.
And it's all yours, Prabhu.
Thank you. I will appreciate Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Accept my obeisances, glory to Shri Prabhupada. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Maung Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschasya Desatarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So that's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 verses, which are the end of this chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in the interest of time, I will just read through these verses. Maybe the first verse, 118, some of you can repeat. Chaitanya Mahima Jani E Sabasiddhante Chitta Drida Hana Lage Mahima Jnana Hoite. Chaitanya Mahima Jani E Sabasiddhante Chittadridha hanalage mahima jnana hoite. Chaitanya mahima jani esabachidante. Chittadridha hanalage mahima jnana hoite. Rikshipu.
Chaitanya Mahima Jani E Sabasiddhante Chita Drida Hanalage Mahima Jnana Hoite. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Gurapu. Okay, is that dear Krishna?
Chaitanya Mahima Jani E Sab Siddhante Chitta Drid Hana Lage Mahima Gyan Haite.
Very nice, thank you. Krishna Gurapu, you want to chant the verse? Text 118.
Chaitanya Mahima Jani Eshab Siddhante Chitta Dridhana Lage Mahima Jnana Hoite.
Anyone else? Okay, word for word, Chaitanya Mahima, the glory of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jani, I know. These. Saba, all. Siddhante, by the conclusions. Chitta, the mind. Dridha, firm. Ana, becoming. Lage, becomes fixed. Mahima, jnana, knowledge of the greatness. Hoite, from. Translation, purport by Srila Prabhupada. By such conclusive studies, I know the glories of Lord Chaitanya. Only by knowing these glories can one become strong and fixed in attachment to him. Report. One can know the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only by reaching, in knowledge, a conclusive decision about Sri Krishna, strengthened by bona fide study of the conclusions of the Acharyas. Text 19. Chaitanya Prabhura Mahima Kahi Bharatare Krishnera Mahima Kahi Kariya Vishtare. Translation. Just to enunciate the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have tried to describe the glories of Sri Krishna in detail. Text 120. Chaitanya Goshan Nira E Tattva Nirupan Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Vrajendra Nandana. The conclusion is that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of the King of Braja. Text 121. Sirupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Ash Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Om Gyanati Mirandasa Jananjanan Salakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasma Shri Guruvedama. Sri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Gadhamaya Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram. So the obvious topic or point for discussion is the idea of conclusive truth and applying that to our efforts to become Krishna conscious in devotional service. So I'm going to take a leap of faith and maybe go out on a limb a little bit in describing this in relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Given that we have no real understanding of this culture and philosophy, most of us, some persons who were born in India have some idea about the culture, the histories, but very few people really understand about Lord Chaitanya, and especially understanding Lord Chaitanya as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a very deep subject matter. So in thinking about this subject matter, this verse, I was considering that having complete faith in Srila Prabhupada is a prerequisite for understanding Krishna, which is a prerequisite for understanding Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we would not be at this stage of our life where we're trying to come to the point of having complete faith in the idea that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. So it seems not almost, but it seems impossible to come to that conclusion without first having faith in Srila Prabhupada. So like in the Sweta Sutara Upanishad, that verse that's very famous, Yasha Deve Para Bhaktir, Yata Deve Tata Gurau, Tasyaite Katita Yarta, Prakashante Mahatmana. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So it seems to be very clear that we have to have faith in Srila Prabhupada in order to get to the point of having this conclusive understanding, final understanding, no more arguments. The word implicit is very interesting. First, it says, not lessened by doubt. We may still have some doubts, not totally 100% clear, but if our faith is implicit, then we proceed with a great confidence. And then it says, absolute and complete. So having absolute and complete faith in Srila Prabhupada is not necessarily easy. It takes a little bit of an endeavor, because especially now, there are many, many distractions from just the simple process of hearing from Srila Prabhupada, about Srila Prabhupada, studying his books, focusing. Some devotees I've heard sometimes would say things like, well, you Prabhupada disciples are just focusing on Prabhupada because that's your guru, which I find very interesting. You always talk about Prabhupada, I have my own guru and all those different things, which is fine. But the reality is there would be no ISKCON, first of all, without Srila Prabhupada. And there would be no ISKCON gurus without Srila Prabhupada. And as I said in the beginning, we would not really understand much about Lord Chaitanya without Srila Prabhupada. So it stands to reason that we should narrow our focus as we're developing our faith in Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, narrow our focus and concentrate on what Srila Prabhupada has given us. Again, this verse is saying from the Sweta Sutara Upanishad, only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master. So when I say spiritual master, when it's mentioned spiritual master, automatically every devotee is going to think of their spiritual master, and that's perfect. That's no problem. But again, the knowledge that we have, all of us, including the current ISKCON gurus, it all came from Srila Prabhupada. There are other gurus within the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. For instance, there's a Gaudiya Math, and there are many, many devotees there. Of course, from my understanding, there are no more Srila Prabhupada god brothers or god sisters. They've all passed away. But the concept of the institution still goes forward. And sometimes devotees take advantage of those members of Gaudiya Math to try to get certain understandings. But I question that, given that how will you come to the point of this verse in the Sweta Sutara Upanishad if you divide your faith in who you hear from? Personally, I prefer to hear from those who have a deep commitment to Srila Prabhupada. So when I hear from them, it inspires me deeply. When I hear from others, I have question marks, many question marks, like, where did that come from? Like, if you speak about Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, as Srila Prabhupada said, when you're in the assembly of devotees, you should be able to refer to the Shastra and the Acharyas, not what you think. I think like this, or I've heard like that. Many things we've heard, especially if you venture out and try to study some of the Vedic literatures. And you get certain understandings there. But then you have to confirm that with, again, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's books are available everywhere. Veda-base, Vani quotes. You can have physical copies of Prabhupada's books. There's a nice book that has only, like this book here, has all the verses, Prabhupada's verses that he quoted. You can steep yourself in Srila Prabhupada. And then we can begin to understand Krishna. And as it says here, by understanding Krishna, we can begin to appreciate Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as it said in that first verse here. By such conclusive studies, I know the glories of Lord Chaitanya. Only by knowing these glories can one become strong and fixed in attachment to him. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not, for the general audience, it's not easy to understand because he's an established historical figure. There have been many things written about Lord Chaitanya from a scholarly platform. You can go to major universities. They have all kinds of histories about Gaudiya Vaishnavism and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but it stops short of identifying him as Supreme Personality of Godhead. And another problem is that the understanding of God is also not universally accepted in all different levels of research and knowledge. People have different ideas about God. God is something invisible. God is love. When we were growing up as young kids in America, they had a song, he's got the whole world in his hand, that God is just holding up the world. He's always depicted as an old man with a big, long beard and muscular and holding up the planets and doing all this work. And then we come in contact with Srila Prabhupada and this Vedic philosophy, Vaishnava style especially. And we find out that Krishna's, the Lord, is a beautiful personality. And he's Navayovana, always fresh and young and beautiful and surrounded by wonderful, wonderful devotees. And he plays a flute. So in the beginning, it might have been a little difficult to accept that. But by having faith in Srila Prabhupada and what he said and how he described it, we began to have some faith in Krishna. Very important, make note of that. By Srila Prabhupada's tireless effort to present Krishna in the right light or perspective, we began to develop a little faith. And then by the association of devotees who also had faith, our faith increased. And it became, as it describes, this Shraddha. Excuse my voice, I'm so sorry. So here it says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 41, Vyavasayatmaka Budhir Ekeha Guru Nandana Bahu Saka or Shaka Yanantascha Buddhiyo Vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. There's some nice things here in the purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness, one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22, chapter 22, text 62 states, Shraddha, Shabde, Viswasha, Kahe, Shudrida, Nishchaya. Krishna Bhakti Koile, Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Translation, Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, firm faith and confidence are called Shraddha. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadulabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all material causes. So all of this we have, or we are gradually acquiring, excuse me, because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Tirelessly explaining these details about Krishna in practical ways, transcendental, philosophical ways. And then our faith in Srila Prabhupada brought us to the stage of beginning to appreciate Krishna. Without the mercy of the Guru, one cannot have the mercy of Krishna. So we have to get that mercy from Srila Prabhupada. And as Srila Prabhupada himself said, when he would visit with his spiritual master, he said, I would sit and listen and others would go away. He said, my Guru was speaking a very high philosophy. It was difficult to understand, but I sat and I listened. And then Srila Prabhupada said something to the effect that my Guru Maharaj saw something in me. He saw that determination to hear. He gave Srila Prabhupada so much. And finally, that order for him to spread Krishna consciousness or his teachings in the English language. And Srila Prabhupada many times explained how his faith in his Guru carried him through difficult times. Srila Prabhupada talks about Krishna in so many beautiful ways, but just note how he speaks about his spiritual master as a reason for his development of Krishna consciousness. So coming to the point of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again, it's not easy to understand him if you're not trained in the proper way. And we're so fortunate. I remember when Srila Prabhupada came to Atlanta and, you know, he, as I said many times, he never gave a Bhagavatam class in Atlanta. He only spoke from Chaitanya Charitamrita and the glories of Lord Chaitanya. Every lecture, including the Sunday feast, everything was about Lord Chaitanya. We say in the Atlanta community, when he saw the beautiful deities of Shishi Gaurnitai, who were the presiding deities in Atlanta, it's interesting because we have Shishi Radha Madan Mohan, but the presiding deity in the middle is Gaurnitai. Because when we installed Shishi Radha Madan Mohan, it was a big debate for several weeks. Should we move Gaurnitai to the side and put Radha Krishna in the middle? And luckily, we had the guidance of His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj. And he said, Prabhupada was sitting there in the temple room in the very back, looking forward, and he saw Gaurnitai. Why would you move the deities? This is where Prabhupada saw them. We should keep them in the middle. This is very beautiful. So Prabhupada spoke about Lord Chaitanya. When he arrived, he spoke about Lord Chaitanya at the Sunday program. He spoke about Lord Chaitanya in their morning class. So beautiful. And helping us to understand, especially the idea of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Namo Mahavanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate. That idea of Lord Chaitanya being so merciful, which tied into the Sankirtan that devotees were doing. There were so many Sankirtan devotees that were present when Srila Prabhupada was here in Atlanta. And Prabhupada inspired the devotees by way of describing Lord Chaitanya. One devotee who was a famous book distributor, and at that time we had started distributing the first volume of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Very big book, you know. So this devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, this Chaitanya Charitamrita is so deep and so heavy. How can we distribute it on Sankirtan where people don't really understand? And Prabhupada said, it is like a sweet ball. Wherever you bite a sweet ball, it is sweet. So wherever they read this book, it is nectar, no problem. And also his Grace Vaishya Secret book. He's famous for distributing books by using the first verse of the Shikshastakam. You know, all glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart. He would quote that to the people that he was talking to, explaining the importance of the book or to why they should take the book. So thinking of Lord Chaitanya, excuse me, is only by the grace of Srila Prabhupada that we can have this gradually developing attachment for Lord Chaitanya. And you can gauge yourself how well you're advancing in Krishna consciousness by how much you actually think about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have this beautiful little deity of Lord Chaitanya that I got in Philadelphia from Jagannath Priya at the gift shop. And I look at him every day and he's holding Lord Jagannath, you see like that, you know. And every time I look at his face, if I can bring it closer for you, can you see it? Absolutely beautiful. And it helps me to realize who I'm trying to surrender to and whom I'm trying to explain about. His great personality. So gauge yourself when you're preaching Krishna consciousness, especially like now is the Christmas marathon, book distribution, all that. Are you bold enough to tell people about Lord Chaitanya? Are you bold enough to tell them about Srila Prabhupada? Haribol Anusaya Mataji. Are you bold, just like Vaishesika Prabhu? Are you bold enough to tell people about Lord Chaitanya? You will if your conviction is strong. If you have that conclusive truth. Another thing about conclusive truth, which I like so much, is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Let's see here. Yes. Chapter 10, text 32. Sarganam adir antascha majjam chaivaham arjuna ajatma vidya vidyanam vada pravadatam aham. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle. O Arjuna, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Purport. Among logicians, there are different kinds of argument. Supporting one's argument with evidence that also supports the opposing side is called jalpa. Merely trying to defeat one's opponent is called vitanda. But the actual conclusion is called vada. This conclusive truth is a representation of Krishna. So if we're convinced that the highest understanding is Krishna, and the person who gave us that high understanding is Srila Prabhupada, why would we not tell people about that? So sometimes devotees say, no, you have to go, kind of go in like a needle, come out like a plow. I remember when I met the late wife of Dr. Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, on Sankirtan at the Atlanta airport in the D concourse. That's the last concourse. It was always kind of the worst concourse, but I was there that day. And we were distributing Lila Amrita. We had, pallets full of Lila Amritas that were not being distributed because we were selling candles and whatever to make money for the temple. So those books were sitting there in the basement, kind of rotting practically. They were stuck together. So we asked our temple president, is it okay, can we take these books out on Sunday, which is not the regular collection day, and distribute them? He said, okay, fine, go. That day, almost the first person that I met was Coretta Scott King. I tied back to the desire to go and distribute Prabhupada's, glories. And then by Krishna's arrangement, I met a very significant person. And she very much appreciated receiving the Lila Amrita. But that Lila Amrita has a picture of Prabhupada with a shaved head. A lot of times we don't want to say, Hare Krishna's, the shaved head and the drum and playing the cymbals in the street. We try to go around that a little bit about yoga, meditation. I do it too, this, that. But that book forced me to have to talk about Prabhupada to this wonderful lady. And I explained about Prabhupada, how he came to the West, how he suffered, how he struggled to present. And she practically, I'm looking at her, she's almost in tears, and she really appreciated it. And she took the book, she held it to her chest and said, thank you so much. Subsequently, I met her many different times at the Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta. I gave her Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, very wonderful person. But that being forced to glorify Srila Prabhupada, we should not have to be forced to glorify Srila Prabhupada. It should just be a natural feeling. Why? Why should I even want to glorify Prabhupada? Because of what he gave us. That conclusive truth would not be possible for us without Srila Prabhupada's explaining, tirelessly explaining, especially this we're not the body concept, how he focused on that, making sure we understood. So we owe a great debt to him. I remember another time, I had this little thing I would do on Sankirtan because I'm African-American, dark skin like that. So I would be presenting the book, especially in the urban communities. And then I would turn the book over and point to Prabhupada because his color in the books is a little bit like you see, he's golden, he's not Caucasian, that's for sure. He's a man of color. So I would point to Prabhupada and say, that's my father. And the person would look at me and look at Prabhupada and say, I guess he could be your father. He is kind of colored, right? I said, that's my father. Now, am I lying or telling the truth? He is my father. I had the first birth by my mother and father, and second birth by my eternal father, Srila Prabhupada. So I have the right. I have the right to say, here's my father. You have the right, meaning those who are second initiated. You can say, here's my grandfather, my spiritual grandfather. And you can begin your conversation from there. He taught this. He did that. Do not be shy to glorify Prabhupada, because what happens is you get some authority when you do that. Now you have some authority. You can speak very boldly about what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada did not like very much this idea of just talking about yoga. I mean, we all do it. I do it as well sometimes, just to get people's attention real quick. I'm trying to remember that exact pastime. Maybe Vishnu Gadad might remember. Devotees were, Prabhupada was hearing from them how they were describing the books on Sankirtan. And they said, we said like this, we said like that. And Prabhupada said, you don't read my books? Do you not read my books? Why are you not explaining these books? Another thing that we would do during those times, whatever we heard in the Bhagavatam class, like today we're hearing in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and hopefully some of you can share your thoughts and feelings, especially my dear God brother Vishnu Gadad Prabhu. So whatever we're hearing now, if you're going on Sankirtan today, or if you're explaining Krishna consciousness today somewhere, somehow, take something from this discussion, share. You can just share about Prabhupada to people that you're talking to. Who is this person, Prabhupada? Someone may ask you, why do you believe in this? Do you explain about Srila Prabhupada? So in the old days, we would go to the Bhagavatam class in the morning, and whatever we heard in the Bhagavatam class, we take it on Sankirtan. We talk about the things we had been reading, heard in the Bhagavatam class. One day, my dear God brother, Goda Hari, he passed away some years ago. He was giving class in Atlanta. Beautiful class, very enthusiastic class. He was at Gita Nagari and all those places, you know. So at the end of the class, he said, now let's take all this ecstasy out into the streets. And there's another video of Brahmananda on the 26th Avenue one night at the end of the kirtan. So let's take all this ecstasy out to the streets. It's amazing, right? So we have all of this knowledge. We're developing some faith. Maybe we don't have implicit or total faith. Maybe we have some still few little doubts, but we really have some faith in Srila Prabhupada. With that faith, the strength of that faith will transmit into the person that you're speaking to. You cannot have an effect in preaching unless you yourself are convinced. That's another point that's very important. If you're not convinced about it, first of all, you're not going to talk about it, right? If you're convinced about it and you're feeling ecstasy about it, why would you not share that with another person? But first you have to get that, as it says, conclusive understanding. By such conclusive studies, I know the glories of Lord Chaitanya. Only by knowing these glories can one become strong and fixed in attachment to him. I know these glories because of conclusive studies. Okay, fine, I'm convinced. I'm not trying to convince myself anymore. Now I want to share. That's why we want to come to that platform. I'm convinced. Now when I read, I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about the concept. Now when I read, I'm relishing. I'm just relishing the nectar because I believe in this now. I'm convinced of this now. I know that this is all there is in this world. This world is a very difficult place. Coming in is difficult, going out is even more difficult. But at some stage, we should just relish the nectar of hearing the glories of the Lord. No more trying to be convinced. At some point, we should be convinced. And if we're convinced about Srila Prabhupada and who he was and what he did, then our activities will accelerate. I remember thinking years and years ago, trying to come to the point of being totally convinced about Srila Prabhupada. And I realized one thing. I said, why would Srila Prabhupada, at his age, and at his level of scholarship in philosophy, why would he get on that boat, go through that suffering, come to America, go through that difficult period in New York to find a fool like me and try to cheat me? Why would he do that? This person, I mean, if I know his glories, I would understand that he wouldn't come just to cheat me to get some money from. I had no money, I had nothing, no education, but he gave me initiation, he gave me mercy. Why would he do that? Is he trying to fool us? Now I know, because I studied some other yogis and all that business before ISKCON, and I just realized that this is really not solid. You know, it was okay, but not really solid. But when Prabhupada spoke and the depth of his understanding and faith, the way he would explain things, it just drew me in more and more, drew me in. And as I read Bhagavad Gita, I was completely drawn in, but I still had that little doubt. You know, did Prabhupada even write these books? I was thinking sometimes, but his English was not that good. His accent was not, did he actually write these books? I had to figure out, there was some editing for Prabhupada's, clarity, and he wanted devotees to do some certain editing and proofreading and all that. But the essence of what he taught came through or comes through so clear. So at a certain point, my faith began to increase. And as my faith increased, the way I would talk about Prabhupada improved. And the people that I would speak about Prabhupada to began to develop a little faith themselves, enough to read Prabhupada's books with sincerity. It's not enough to read the books for scholarly purposes. Oh, I'm going to read these books. I'm going to master the philosophy. I'm going to learn Sanskrit. I'm going to learn the slokas and the pastimes. Yes, very good. But why? But what is the end of that? Faith in Prabhupada. Not that you study and you become so intellectual and intelligent that you sort of forget Prabhupada and keep him on the side. He should always be in the middle. Otherwise, there's faith in Krishna, and then the faith in Lord Chaitanya being Krishna will not become solid. It will not become a conclusive platform, as the verse is saying, by such conclusive studies studies with conviction, not speculation, but conclusive studies. Now I totally understand, not totally understand, but I'm totally convinced of this philosophy. I'm reading it with conviction, not like I was doing in the beginning, reading with certain doubts, reading it with conviction. So everything you hear, you want to apply it because you believe in it. You know this to be truth. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime, meaning we don't see Krishna in his form dancing and playing the flute, although Rupa Goswami says the perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest of Vrindavan. We haven't seen that. But we're reading and studying, convinced, we should be, that Krishna is there, Lord Chaitanya is there, Srila Prabhupada is there. And as we do that, then as we explain Krishna consciousness, it will have an impact. Srila Prabhupada had impact because he had total faith. He had to have total faith. How in the world could he do what he did without total faith? He was suffering physically. So many things were happening to him, but he kept plowing forward with faith. He said, my Guru Maharaj is always with me. I never felt alone. He said that in Atlanta. I'm sure he said it several places. I never felt alone. You know, sometimes we get lonely, sometimes we get confused, and that's because we forget our spiritual master and we forget Srila Prabhupada. As I said, some devotees, they say, oh, you Prabhupada disciples, all you want to do is talk about Prabhupada. That's your guru. And I'm like, how in the world can you say that? You wouldn't have a guru without Prabhupada. No way. So don't ever equate Prabhupada with your own spiritual master. Don't ever make that mistake. Your spiritual master will not make that mistake or should not make that mistake. Prabhupada should be at the forefront of everything we talk about and explain. And don't ever let yourself become the focus. Don't ever strive for that. As Srila Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12, first principle of knowledge, manitvam, humility. And then he defines humility in that purport, not being anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others. We want all the honor to go to Prabhupada, all the respect to go to Prabhupada. all the glory to go to Krishna, all the glory to Lord Chaitanya. So in order to bring that to the world, study how Prabhupada preached. He preached directly about Krishna. He preached directly about Lord Chaitanya. And he also spoke directly about his spiritual master, to the point sometimes he would even cry talking about his spiritual master. So we should take that lesson. We can't speak enthusiastically about Lord Chaitanya or Krishna without having that conclusive concept in our mind, as it says here in this verse 118. I love this verse. By such conclusive studies with conviction, I know the glories of Lord Chaitanya. Only by knowing these glories can one become strong and fixed in attachment to him. So if you love someone, I'm sure many of you, all of you love someone, your parents, your children, your husband, your wife, your guru. So if you love someone, the natural tendency is to glorify them. And Prabhupada explained that. I wish I could draw the reference, pull it up to you right now, but he said like that. The expression of your love is you want to glorify the person. So you can gauge how much you love Prabhupada and how much you love Krishna and how much you love Lord Chaitanya, who is non-different from Krishna, by how much you want to speak about them. How many times in a day, in a week, in a month, during the marathon, whenever, that you speak directly about Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. If you're distributing Chaitanya Charitamrita, boom, you talk about Lord Chaitanya. Distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, boom, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, you talk about Krishna. And you talk, when you're distributing any book, you talk about Srila Prabhupada, who gave us these books, gave us this knowledge. And he's, through us, he's reaching other people. So you can tell people like that. The founder of the Hare Krishna movement, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, was a great spiritual scholar from India, great saintly person. Do you explain a little bit about what a sadhu is? And he brought this knowledge with great difficulty to the Western world to enlighten us about who we are, spiritual beings, we're not the body, and about who God is and what is our relationship with God. Many persons have tried to explain God, but the way Prabhupada, the person who did these books, the way he explains God, he covers every aspect. He reveals God as the most beautiful. And then you explain like that, people, they can't not listen to you. They listen. They maybe not accept it, but they know that you're convinced. They know that you're convinced about what you're saying and say, okay, you know what? Let me check this out. Let me see what's in this book. So all I'm trying to say here, and I don't mean to ramble on, but is that by developing this faith in Srila Prabhupada, everything else follows. By having complete implicit faith in Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, that's really where I'm at on that point, that will bring us to the stage of understanding Krishna, and then ultimately understanding Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna. So when you think of Lord Chaitanya as non-different from Krishna, after you've understood who is Krishna by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, then you look at Lord Chaitanya in a different way. Okay? He's not just, like they say in some books, he's a Bengali saint. Because that's how they see him. He's a Bengali saint. They even see Krishna as a black Aborigine prince. Not only that, they say a lusty black Aborigine prince. That's the limit of their understanding. So we have to come with a clear understanding of who Krishna is, and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came over 500 years ago, is that same Krishna, same personality, Krishna. So let me stop there, and hopefully we have a few comments you'd like to share. I turn it over to you, Anasuya.
I'll have Pritchett handle it since he started it, Prabhu.
All right. Thank you, Fu, for this wonderful lecture, bringing our attention to Srila Prabhupada and how important he is in our lives. You made mention of the fact that we couldn't have spiritual masters ourselves without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, because he started this. And through him, other sannyasis and people in different ashrams also became spiritual masters.
Yes.
I came to this country a month and 2 days after Srila Prabhupada left the planet.
Hare Krishna.
So I know I came January 15th, there, but well, a month and a day after
Yeah.
Prabhupada left. So it's very important what you've told us. Another thing that I picked up from it is from the lecture is by mentioning your god brother who's now Guru Vaisheshika Prabhu and him using the first of Shastaka to explain the books. Voice of Sri Krishna Sankirtan cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years.
Yes.
So this is the book. So I was imagining if I was on there and I used that, and I'm going to, then it would mean this book is going to, whichever book I'm holding, it's going to cleanse your heart
Wow.
of so many misgivings that you didn't know. And it's all going to give you a better sense of what spirituality is about, who God is. So many things that you yourself imagined because you didn't know God will be explained all in this book. Hmm?
Wow.
And how to connect
I'll
with them.
buy a book from you if you do that.
But you started it those two. As soon as you mentioned Shastaka, first, my mind started going. How to do this, how to do this, how to do this. So I'm already excited about this stuff. Just to make sure that it's all, and I use it. And I know Vaisheshika Prabhu, he was excellent book distributor.
I mean, he would hold people's hands and say that all glory to Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses like that. It's like, well, how in the world could you do that?
So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, this again, I apologize for joining 20 minutes, late. I had
No problem.
Another service with Chandramali Swami, and as you were speaking about Srila Prabhupada, Prabhu, it was so nice because I really like the point that you mentioned, that we cannot minimize Srila Prabhupada because it's because of him that we have our spiritual masters today. If it was not for Srila Prabhupada, we would not have them. And I was listening yesterday, Saurabh sent me a link of a class that His Holiness Chandramali Swami was giving in ISKCON Nashik yesterday. And it was just purely Prabhupada pastimes. And it was so beautiful. Some were funny, hilarious, but it was so deep. It was so deep that devotees wanted to hear more and more about Srila Prabhupada. And I was just, also at the same time, Prabhu, I was thinking about Bhakti Chara Swami, how he was mentioning when I was attending the GPC college. And I always say this like a broken record because it really made a lifelong impression in my mind. He said, in 2019, that if we do not speak the glories of Srila Prabhupada and talk about Srila Prabhupada, speak about Srila Prabhupada, quote verses or whatever Srila Prabhupada, he literally had a slideshow, Prabhupada. He says by the 4th generation, Prabhupada will be gone.
Oh my God.
He actually said that. And when I saw that picture, my heart just went boop, it just dropped. And I was just, and then like a lot of thoughts probably was coming to my mind as you're speaking, because like when I'm sure even Prakshit can vouch for this, that when we, those days they had Bhakti classes for initiation, and we had to read 10 books.
Yes.
And one of the books was Prabhupada Lilamrita. And Bhakti Tirtha Swami made sure that we read that book. Yeah. And it's such a moving book, Prabhu. And I'm just thinking, Prabhu, and how can we, just a thought of Prabhupada, being washed, hopefully that doesn't happen because his books are the law books for 10,000 years. But Prabhu, how can we really dive deep into Prabhupada? Like I'm trying to think, because I know like for some of us who have spiritual masters, we give awe and reverence, we follow what the Guru says, but on the side, or simultaneously, how can we really go deep into Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita and really understand his teachings? Like if Prabhupada didn't say it, don't say it, you know, like how can we really go into that mood, Prabhu?
No, Srila Prabhupada, in his Vyasa Puja offering to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he said, if you had not come, who would have told the message of Krishna forceful and bold? So he was giving us that kind of mood that he had. So if Prabhupada had not come, who would have told this message of Krishna forceful and bold? Because he took it from his spiritual master, brought it to us. It begins with appreciation. And that appreciation is born of knowledge, research. Research what? Srila Prabhupada. Lila Amrita is there. There are many other books that are there. Shama Sundar's book is there. Even Chutananda's book, which is kind of interesting, kind of funny book, about Prabhupada and Brahmananda. There's so much in Jamuna, so much knowledge. I know Vishnu Gadaprabhu in Philadelphia, he was doing the Lila Amrita as a book reading. I think you finished that. And so that was helping devotees. And many devotees, they would say, I'm not doing anything on Thursday night because Vishnu Gada is doing Prabhupada Lila Amrita. I have to go out to hear. And they began to appreciate more and more about Srila Prabhupada. So get that appreciation for what he did, spread that to all that you know, but get it yourself first. Get that appreciation yourself first, and then you, by your example, share it with others by talking about Prabhupada. Whenever you're with devotees, because we don't have what we used to have, which is everyone living in the temple, Bhakti program, that when you got off base, the devotee was, hey, wake up, come on, do like this, do like that. So we encourage everyone to read that. Vishnu Gadaprabhu had his hand up. Vishnu Gadaprabhu?
There's a nice verse that is spoken by Kapila Dev. Prasanga majaram pasham atmana kavayo vidu. Sa eva sadhu sukrito moksha dvaram apavritam. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door for liberation.
Wow.
So anyway, the reason we started the Thursday evening Srila Prabhupada class was because, as Mother Anastasia said, that this newer generation of devotees don't really have a good conception of Srila Prabhupada, or don't have any personal understanding of Srila Prabhupada. It's tougher because the books are there, but Srila Prabhupada's books can be taken kind of like in a philosophical way, but not a personal way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
So how Prabhupada did things, how Prabhupada dealt with a certain, philosophical or spiritual or, devotee challenge. Those kinds of things are, we can meditate on those. And there's not that often we don't get that opportunity. So we've been taking that time. Actually, we went through the Lilamrita twice.
Wow.
Then the Miracle on Second Avenue.
Great book.
Then after Miracle on Second Avenue was a Great Transcendental Adventure, which was Srila Prabhupada's activities in Australia and New Zealand. Because in the Lilamrita, you'll only find a few pages about Prabhupada's activities in Australia and New Zealand. But in the Great Transcendental Adventure is 600 and some pages of Prabhupada's activities in Australia and New Zealand, which a lot of things I didn't know came from there, Prabhupada's activities there. Then we read Yamuna's book. And it's especially good when you read it with other devotees, because then you can look at it from this. Oh, what about that? What about that? It becomes more alive. So we read Mother Yamuna's book. Then we read I'll Build You a Temple by Giri Raswami. We read Mother Vishaka's book, 5 years and 11 months. And now we're reading Harisari's diary.
Wow.
Thing. But unfortunately, not many people attend. Unfortunately, there's maybe 8, 9.
Yeah.
It's not It's kind of, my sense is there's a feeling, well, that's kind of Vishnu Gada's thing, as you were saying. Is there's, oh yeah, that's your guru. So there we have our guru.
Yeah.
So forget this. Yeah. That's my sense. But not many people have attended and not many people attend, but I attend. So that's important for me. Sometimes people say, well, I want my guru. The guru should be, has to be an elevated devotee, and my guru is the most elevated devotees. You've heard this?
Yes.
Yeah. So some people, but actually, Srila Prabhupada's the guru of everybody in ISKCON. Siksha Guru. Prabhupada is supposed to be recognized as a Siksha Guru. So in order to get understanding of what his personality, what his service is, what his how he did things, it's really important to get that sense without, and it's hard to do. Not always you can do it, but it's harder to do if you don't have some of this kata as you're talking about, like Chandramali Swami and you're doing today and stuff like that.
Beautiful, beautiful, Prabhu. It just reminds me of the project that we started here in Atlanta 23 years ago. Srila Prabhupada Super Saturday. The first Saturday of every month for 23 years. We come together, we listen to a video lecture of Prabhupada. First we have the RT to Prabhupada, Guru Puja, and translation, and then we do Prabhupada's video. And at the end, we have like a 15, 20 minutes, sometimes half hour, 45-minute discussion. And I make sure that I'm not the one just talking, but the people who heard it, especially the newer people, they're saying, and even the little children, as young as 5 years old, Prabhupada said like this, it's like amazing, amazing. So now it's going inside of them. Why? Like Vishnu Gada is saying, he started that program. Why? Because whatever, and I know you don't consider yourself a great man like I don't, but whatever a great man does, common men follow. If we don't do it, the few, whatever, Prabhupada disciples and those who have that deep faith in Srila Prabhupada, if we don't set that standard now, as you pointed out, Anasuya, 3-4 generations down, Prabhupada will still be there, but he won't be as prominent. He'll go further and further we have to do everything we can to keep Prabhupada in the center. So this idea of Srila Prabhupada in the center is being debated, and sometimes the debates make me sick. How can you not support the idea of promoting Srila Prabhupada? Because the Westerners may not understand, they think it's some kind of hero worship or cult worship. Nonsense. Your conviction, my conviction, will cut through all of that nonsense. If someone challenges me and says, well, you were brainwashed by that Swamiji, I will blast them to the end of the earth. You cannot move me from my conviction about Srila Prabhupada. Now, I'm trying to become more convinced about Krishna, and it's happening, but you can't shake me about Prabhupada. No way, because I know he did not cheat me, meaning all of us. He gave us this pure knowledge. And now I'm going to take that knowledge and go with it. That's the end of the story. Conclusive. That much I can say I have. I have that much faith in Srila Prabhupada. I think Parikshit Prabhu, you had your hand, and then Anasuya. Oh, you were first.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for bringing forcefully in this class the importance of Srila Prabhupada. Everything was just, he made it all happen. And when you started talking about other disciples, grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and they're very much attached to their gurus, and they think that that's it, my guru, and you have your guru. This whole point, when I hear about this, I'm going, well, don't they ever think of the parampara though? Who's spiritual master? Who's the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. Have you seen anywhere on the altar that they put Srila Prabhupada, they put Bhaktisiddhanta and then Srila Prabhupada after that? If you think about the parampara and say your guru is more important than Srila Prabhupada, then it's like you put a parampara and you put Srila Prabhupada first, and then after that, your guru, and then go to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Aren't you reversing the whole point in your mind now? It's that's my argument. The problem you had the Prabhupada upside down. As soon as you just put the Prabhupada in the wrong place.
Mm.
So that's those who at least look at it from a point of view of arranging things. Geez, I mean, there's one, and there's two, and there's three. You don't start two, then one, then three. It's just simple. That's why I look at it. So I want to just throw that in there. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Anasuya?
One, a couple of things that are coming to my mind, Prabhu, is I think I will never forget this, and I probably Parikshit might also remember this, that my, Bhaktitirtha Swami, our spiritual master, told us many, many years ago. He says, and he told that, I don't know whether it was in a class or darshan, but I remember very clearly, he was sitting in his armchair, it's so clear in my mind. And he said to us, make yourself worthy.
Wow.
He literally, this is your Prabhupada's disciple, right? A spiritual master. He said, he was telling all of us, make yourself worthy so that I can offer you as a flower on Srila Prabhupada's garland.
Hare Krishna.
When he said that, I said, that's it. That's it. And Prabhu till this very day, I remember, and you know me, I'm not a pundit in any Sanskrit. I'm like zero. But that instruction is one of the few. I clearly remember he said, make yourself worthy so I can offer you as a flower on Srila Prabhupada's garland. So to me, there was a message, that all our spiritual masters, they only talk about Prabhupada and they want to offer us to Prabhupada because he's the founder Acharya.
Yeah.
So that was a very strong point for me. This was back in the 90s, I think, is when he said that. So that always stayed with me. And just a little side joke, I like most children, their first words are always mommy or daddy or mama and dada or something, But I remember from our first daughter, now, she's Manoharini, her first word was Abhay.
Really?
I'm not joking, Prabhu.
Wow.
Because she was so attached to watching Abhay Charan, because for some reason that, her first daughter is a little bit interesting child. She never liked cartoons. She thought they were scary. She would run to the room. She had to see real people. Even when they had Barney, those days, she was afraid of the purple dinosaur. But when she saw Abhay Charan, she loved it. So her first words were Abhay. It was not mommy and daddy.
Wow.
Nah. We were like, okay, this is a very weird child. No mommy, no daddy. So, and I think it's all because of our spiritual master's training. He told us, make yourself white so I can offer you to Prabhupada, not to me, to Prabhupada.
Yeah. That's so
And
beautiful.
yeah, so that was one that really stayed with me. And I really like what Vishwagata Prabhu was saying, that they really go on to different books of Srila Prabhupada. That gave me more ideas, Prabhu.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that idea.
Yes.
You have given me more ideas to really push Prabhupada's memories through. Thank you so much. Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts from devotees? Any reflections, any takeaways on this really amazing point of how we can uphold Srila Prabhupada in our lives and never forget him? It's only by his mercy that we even have what we have today.
Yeah.
There's no other way. And actually, no, I should have my husband take over. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. You can keep talking.
Okay. I didn't want to.
Kanamai's family likes you as a host for this.
Oh, no, he's just being loving. No, he's just being merciful. He's just merciful. But if there are no questions, Prabhu, Balabhadra Prabhu, happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think I've had so many cheesecakes, I'm going to become a cheesecake.
And
Prabhu, also
Krishna's mercy.
And we also have devotees really waiting and looking forward to having your association in Harrisburg.
Oh, yes.
So we hope that you can come visit us in the spring. We're planning a spring kirtan. I'll let you know the date is before the end of the year, but devotees want to have the association. And they're even asking if you can stay over and give the next Sunday class. So just giving you 4 months notice, Prabhu.
Okay.
Would love before Philadelphia takes you, I'm taking you right now. I got to fight with Acharya now. Gosh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to all the devotees for joining us. Vanchakap Divyascha, Kripasundabhyacha, Patitanam Pavanebhya, Vaishnavebhya Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah, Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Hare Krishna.